Hello there, my name is Bruce Stewart from webinarnomad.com with Webinar Nomad's Webinar Basic Series. This series has 11 videos in it, and these tutorials will get you well on the way to doing your very first webinar. So let's get it cracking with video 1, and this is called the introduction.
Now, a webinar is very simply, it's a web conference. It's where a group of people get together on the internet through their browsers to listen to an expert deliver a training program. Now, the training program is a combination of video and audio. They can see a PowerPoint presentation or your computer screen or whatever you want them to see. And while they're doing that, they can listen to you, and best of all, there's interaction between the two of you. So they're very powerful ways for you to present information to pretty much people across the globe. It's a fantastic way of training, a way of teaching people, and a way of providing information. And best of all, it's a very popular way of training at the moment. So, in the old days, it used to be just audio. You'd have a teleconference and people would talk. But, with the advances in internet technologies, the better availability of high-speed broadband, now video is so much easier for people on the internet. So, video is typically a part of a webinar. As I said, you would create a PowerPoint presentation, you would go through something on your screen to train them and show them how to do whatever it is you want to do. So it's very powerful and popular, and it's very effective. People love having webinars run. People love attending them. It's like attending an offline training course, but sort of in person, but online. People like going to training courses and training programs and learning, but often the cost or the distance is insurmountable for a lot of people. And for you, as somebody trying to run that, it's expensive. You have to hire a hall, hire equipment, advertise, get people in, etc. So it's not always particularly easy to do. So a webinar allows you to run a training program almost as if you were there in front of them, but across the internet. So it's very powerful, and it's pretty much replacing teleconferences these days. If you remember a year or two ago, the thing was teleconferences, you had to run them, you had to do them, they were very important, it was the in thing. And really now, telephone conferences are sort of almost dying a death because they're not really very popular anymore. People don't like them, people don't use them, they're difficult, they're expensive because, let's face it, if I'm in the UK and the telephone conference is in the USA, I've got to pay for an international rate telephone call, which of course for a lot of people that would really put them off. And if you're in sort of somewhere like, say, India or a sort of a country like that, it may be that the cost of the call is significant, and we're talking a large proportion of your income. So telephone conferences, whilst good if people are in the same geographic area, aren't particularly useful if you are located in different time zones, different countries. Paying for international calls really would put a lot of people off. So webinars have really helped to overcome this because people can do it all online. They're doing it all through their browser. They're not paying for any calls. They're doing it all through their browser. So it's free with their internet connection, which makes it very popular. Now, having the video so people can see you and you can obviously show them your screen, and having the ability to run polls and take messages and questions from your listeners pretty much as you're working really is helping to make webinars very popular. People love this interactiveness of them, and that really is, to be honest, one of the major benefits is the fact that I, as sort of an attendee, if you like, can go to the webinar and I can ask a question. So there may be the big guru is there and they're running their training program, and I don't understand something, and I say, look, just help me out here, I don't understand this, what do you mean? And then if they will take the question, they may answer it, and there you are, I've had my question answered, which of course is going to do well for me as the attendee, because I'm going to feel well loved by the person who's running it. So this interactiveness makes it very, very helpful. The issue with telephone conferences, of course, is they couldn't be this interactive because you couldn't open up an individual line. You had to open up to everyone, and then you'd have 1,000 people trying to talk at once, which frankly is a nightmare. So webinars have made the whole online training thing so much easier and so much better in many, many ways. So webinars are a fantastic way for you to communicate with your subscribers. It's a great way for you to build a list. You can use webinars to build a list, to sell products, to establish yourself as an authority, to educate people as to why they have to buy from you. All sorts of things like that. So webinars are very, very powerful and very effective. They really, really are. So, I think what you'll find is, as we go through this program is you'll realize how effective and useful a webinar is. Now, I don't want you, before we start, I don't want you sitting there thinking, well, I'm not in the internet marketing niche. How am I going to run a webinar? Doesn't matter what niche you're in. You can be in any niche at all and webinars will work. I might run a 6-week webinar on confidence, for example. I might run a webinar on how to cook. How to make the perfect cake, or the best roast potatoes, or something like that. There's endless possibilities. So please don't sit there throughout this program thinking, how can I do this in internet marketing? Internet marketing is just one of many, many niches. And there's many other niches that you could be applying this to that frankly you'll find a lot more profitable and a lot easier to get involved in. Now, we're probably going to talk mainly about the internet marketing niche because it's a fairly generic one that we're all very familiar with and we're obviously all involved with. So it's probably going to be our example throughout this this program. But do bear in mind that it doesn't matter what niche you are in. You may still run webinars, and webinars will still be very popular and very accepted by people. Remember, if you go into some of the other niches, self-help niche, the making money niche, things like that, they love attending seminars, and the webinar allows them to attend seminars whenever they want. So very, very effective. So let me just talk a little about what you're going to find in this course. Now, we're going to go through quite a lot of information about webinars. By the time we finish, you will know everything you need to know to run a webinar and be ready to go. We're going to talk about the webinar companies. There's lots of companies that will host your webinar for you, but which one do you want to use? What's the different features? What's the options available to you? So we want to discuss that as well so that you have a good understanding of what to look for in a webinar company. The last thing you want to do is to set up your webinar and have a nightmare because of the webinar company. I mean, that's really, really going to ruin it. If you've worked hard to get 1,000 people on there that are all raring to go and ready to listen to you, and then it all falls to pieces because of the webinar company, that's a huge, huge problem. And worst of all, because of the terms of service of the webinar company, there's probably no legal recourse for you, so you couldn't go off and sue them or anything like that because they'll say, well, we don't guarantee a service or something like that. So their terms of service, which you accept when you sign up, will probably protect them from that. So it's up to you to ensure that you choose the right webinar company because it will make a big, big difference. And I'm actually going to show you two of the most popular and most well-known webinar companies. They vary a little in price, but I wanted you to see both ends of the market. I want you to see what is available. So we're going to look at two very popular webinar companies. Now, one of the things that people fall down on is how do they structure their presentation? How do you deliver a webinar in such a way that it's useful to people? A lot of people aren't used to talking to audiences, and running a webinar is effectively talking to an audience. So the idea is that if I can help you to run that webinar in a structured and effective manner, it's going to make your life an awful lot easier because you're going to understand how to run that webinar for maximum effect. So if you have it structured well, It's going to run properly, it's going to sound well, people are going to be impressed, it's going to be professional. If it's badly structured and you're sort of jumping around all over the place, then of course it's not going to make any sense to your readers, your listeners, and it's going to put them off. They're going to be, thinking you're unprofessional, and you find a large number of them will probably leave the webinar. I'm going to talk a little bit about marketing your webinar as well. Now, obviously, one of the first places to look is your own list, but what if you don't have a list? How can you get people into your webinar? We're going to talk about that as well. And we're going to talk about the actual presentation of your webinar so that you don't sit there stuttering and going and ah all the time and people really not enjoying whatever it is you're doing. So I want to make sure that you have an idea of how to be confident presenting it, how to deal with the issues that are likely to come up. We're going to talk about when to run webinars as well. Now, obviously there's certain times of the day that will be more effective than others, but you're in a global marketplace, so what do you do? We're going to talk about that and help you understand it. We're going to talk as well about turning your webinar into a product and how to make a product from webinars. Now, they may sound like the same concepts, but they're actually slightly different, and we're going to cover sort of both of those in this, so you really have a good understanding of it. And of course, there's going to be a lot more. We're going to go into a good amount of detail here. I want to share a lot of information with you just to really help you, become the best you can and run webinars. Webinars are a very effective and profitable way for you to run your business. They are very good. And what I want you to do by the end of this is to be in a position where you can very easily run your own webinar with no problems at all. So I want you to hold on and get ready as we're going to go through and start teaching you all about running webinars and profiting from them.